I started recording. Hey, so the question here I got: what do you think of language servers? I think I've answered this before. That's not that I'm against language servers. I actually think they're super cool. The technology behind them, I would really love to make one. Go has a phenomenally awesome uh, parser and language server built into the language, and that's what their linter uses. And so I use the linter. I'm a big fan of linters, which reformat your code and keep it clean and all of that. I love that. I use it all the time. I use it extensively in Go because I like to just write the stuff out and then just hit save and have it just do the right thing. Um, I could be convinced to like tab for code completion. I could be convinced to like that. So like when I'm doing my coding sessions, uh, I like being able to hover over a thing. A lot of people don't know this, but VI Vim and VI has automatically comes built in with documentation. So I pressed Shift K, so uppercase K, and I was able to get documentation on that thing. And so just to go back to the main point here, the people who tend to like language servers tend to be, in my experience, they tend to be people who like to use graphics browse, graphics editors, and they like to have all of the suggestions pop up for them all the time. They also tend to use Z Shell, which I despise. I despise Z Shell. I try to use it and it just drives me crazy. It keeps thinking it's smarter than I am, and I want VI access to my command line and be able to search for things like that. Yeah, C for change word in VI rather than yeah. Uh, if you're going to change a word throughout your whole entire document base, um, yeah, but I mean, look, people have been doing development without language servers for decades, and it's going to make me sound old, but there's to me, I don't see the benefit, and unless somebody sees, uh, yeah. So if somebody has, I mean, there's what is that command? There's a command that I've never really learned to use in C that allows you to see all the symbols and to change them automatically and stuff like that. Um, and so those are all things. So the people who tend to like language servers tend to be the educated ones. And we're not talking about the sheep who just do whatever they're told because there's some cool person that they like on YouTube or Twitch uses it. We're talking about the people who have actually evaluated this. They tend to be people who like graphics browsers, and they tend to be people because that's why, I guess you can make the case that Microsoft invented language servers so that VS Code would work. And they tend to be people who like tab completion for stuff, and they tend to be people who are okay with pop-ups. If my code editor starts popping shit up in the middle of it while I'm writing, I will throw it out the window. I hate that. I've always despised that. I think it's completely inefficient to do it. However, sometimes it's useful to be able to go get to the documentation faster, and that, as I said, is already built into Vim, right? So Vim automatically has built-in documentation highlighting by language. So you may not even know that you have this, and you hover over something, and if it's the right thing, you get the syntax, you get the signature, and you get the documentation that goes with it. And by the way, all of those code completer things that are enabled by language servers, they don't give you the documentation. They don't. They give you the idea of it. They give you a thing that says, okay, go do this thing, but they don't. They give the Omni function. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what it is, and so that's just my style. And somebody asked, so that's my description. I'm not putting you down if you like it, but I don't think you should change your editor because it doesn't have language server support. I think if you're using Vim properly, you don't need it at all. And the one time I will say that I think language server. I don't know if it's a language server support that enables it, but an IDE like an Emacs IDE or VS Code allows you, like if you have a symbol to change across 3,000 files, you can do that, right? You can do that much more easier than you could do with Vim. I use Perl, PIE and things like that to find out all those things, and then you combine that with Git to see which ones I changed that shouldn't have been changed. These are very arcane methods for changing symbols across an entire code base. And C coders have been doing this. They have actual better tools than just random Go developers. But and I believe there are other ways to do that. I was actually told by the guy that I work with that Go has something that I haven't configured it. I need to find it. That you can actually, when you go on this, there's some quick key that you can use that will actually navigate to that source code, and it will open the file up. And so then you can go like do multiple package development at the same time. And I don't have that enabled right now. I usually have multiple windows up and I just pull it up and stuff. Am I slower? Yeah, I'm probably slower. I mean, you make a decision for yourself. You watch me to decide if I'm slower than people that have language servers. But the overhead that you have to add a language server is just not worth it to me. That's the main point. The overhead is just not worth it because you have to install it. You can't use it everywhere. It's all of the, okay. I want a lightweight editor that I can take with me anywhere. I'm talking about potentially bundling Vim inside of my Bonsai monolith so that I can take it with me wherever I go. So I have my exact version of Vim that I want to use every time, and I, like Alpine does. But and that's a different need. I want to be productive on as many systems as quickly as possible. I don't want to have to spend a half an hour configuring my editor on some target system that I'm on that I might not have access to after 20 minutes. And it's very much a hacker mentality, or an operations mentality. But developers, people who get really deeply into specific code bases, and they are really going deep and hard into those code bases, they benefit from a language server more than I would. And I am not going to say anything bad about that. If that's people who are using Emacs with language servers, or they're using VS Code or NeoVim with language server. I mean, people use language servers as justification for using NeoVim, and I'm like, well, Vim's got support for it too, and so you should just go ahead and do it. Yeah, there's a lot of people who use NeoVim. When people come to me with NeoVim, I always ask them the question, why do you use NeoVim? They're always like, why are you not using NeoVim? And I'm like, no, the burden of proof is on you. I don't want this to become a NeoVim rant, but the burden of proof is on you. Vim is a default editor on literally billions of systems at this point, millions probably at least. And if you are going to tell me that I am wrong for using the default editor, you need to make the case. I don't have to make a case for using the default editor on millions of systems since for over 3 decades. And this doesn't have anything to do with being old and gray bearded. This has to do with being the industry fucking standard. So if you're going to come at me with, but it has Lua, they have VI and not Vim. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. They have VI. And this is another reason that I don't let Vimisms, too many of them. I have actually let some creep in, but I have not let Vimisms creep into my VI sessions, because if you get on Alpine, some of those things that I do, including my beloved, double exclamation point, filters, are not supported in VI on Alpine. So you have to really think about what your goals are in terms of like editing. But a language server is like an unnecessary, completely, first of all, a language server, the stuff that it gives you, even if you have the time to configure it on your own system, does not compel me to want to use it all by itself. But even if it didn't have that, it'd be like, well, what are the other reasons for using an editor, right? So I find, and I have to talk about this a lot. I get, I love Teach, by the way, and Prameji and I have come to terms, and I think I really, really do think you have the choice to use NeoVim. And in Terminal Mastery, in Terminal Velocity in the book, I will cover NeoVim, and I just don't use NeoVim. If you want to use NeoVim, fine, use it. But just know that you're making a conscious decision to not be able to use your editor on another system. So you are going to burn into your muscle memory. If you use NeoVim, I beg you, don't burn muscle memory stuff into your hands that is not going to work on a system that only has Vim or VI, or at least know the alternative before you only learn NeoVim. Okay, and this was about language servers, but I think it was kind of a hidden question about NeoVim. Why aren't you using NeoVim? And that's why. So I have no problem with people using NeoVim. I use it all you want. If you want to use it, if it makes you more effective as a programmer, fine. But I strongly encourage you to learn Vim first. Frankly, learn VI first. Frankly, learn Ed first, and that's how we do it. In the Terminal Velocity Boost, we learn Ed first, and then we learn VI, which is Visual Motive Ed. VI is Ed, the standard Unix editor. That is the tagline. And then we learn Vim, right? And we allow some Vimisms, and I go through what Vimisms those are. And then after that, if you want to learn NeoVim, and next year we might do that actually. Next year we might learn a couple things from NeoVim, like language server completion and COC and all that stuff that that some people might want. I don't care about it, but some people might want it. The point is that it's a progressive learning, and you maintain the skills of all of the other I don't have it kind of situations, so that you're not, thumbling around because you don't have NeoVim. And you certainly aren't going to ask your bastard operator from hell who's in controlling your jump box into your entire Kubernetes cluster, hey, can I please install NeoVim on here? Why isn't there NeoVim on here? They'll laugh you out of the room. They still had Vim 7.1 when I got here 2 years ago, and they just barely upgraded to like 8. So the point is that if you have total control of your environment, mostly the people that are in software development, then fine, go to town, do whatever you want. But if you don't, if you have the risk of having to use a system that you don't have full control, and no, SSH and remote editing of files is dangerous. It's horrible. It's a bad thing to do. Don't do it. So, but people, that's the way to do that, in my opinion. My opinion would be for you to get good with the tools that lead up to it, and then if you have to, fail back to those things, you can use those. And that's a concept in web development called progressive web design. It's where you support the least amount of technology that the browser supports. And that, by the way, includes having a text-based version of your site that does not depend on JavaScript if you have a documentation site and not an app. I just want to put that out there. And then you add on, right? Oh, hey, we got JavaScript. Okay, let's do that. Oh, we have like full React support. Oh, we have this. And so you kind of like amp up. It's kind of like a really old modem init sound. If you've ever heard, like, go back and listen to this stuff from like the 80s and the 90s, the initial modems. Like it would, first of all, the modem would have one sound, and then it would realize, oh my God, yes, I can go longer, I can go faster, and it would change the sound, and then it would change the sound, and it would progressively add on to its capabilities without assuming the top level of capability. It would progressively add on. I suggested that fundamentally is a great way to approach everything, whether it be your own learning or your design for an application. You don't make assumptions at the highest level. You make assumptions at the minimal level. Like, this person doesn't have eyes. They can't see. Right? So guess what? If we're going to have pictures there, we need to have a description of the pictures. Right? I mean, if you're not doing that, you might get sued and lose like Pizza Hut did. So that's where I stand on that. Did you mean the overhead is just not worth it? Oh, did I? Whoopsie. Yeah, thank you for that correction. So that's my thoughts on that. Please don't feel attacked. Do what you need to do, but that's my explanation of why.